everybody. I am starting this video off a little bit different than what I typically do my other videos. I am just gonna kick this one off by saying I am starting Manacled. I don't know what to expect because I have avoided most, if not all, spoilers. I just know that this is a Dramione Harry Potter world fan fiction. That is what I know. I know it is dark. I know it's kind of Handmaid's Tale-ish, but other than that, I know nothing. I've never even read fan fiction before. And is this a crazy place to be starting? Probably. But I'm gonna do it anyways because I love the Harry Potter books, I love the Harry Potter movies, and I am ready to consume something new, but in this world. So a little alternate ending, I would love it. I'm ready to go into it. I'm starting it now. I'll give some updates as I get to them. I am only 2% of the way into this and my jaw has already been dropped multiple times. I'm gonna cry. If not within these first few chapters, I'm gonna be sobbing at some point in this book. Oh my gosh. I did get a few chapters read last night when I started Manacled. I'm now on chapter 5 and I'm already hooked. I don't want to put this down. I don't want to stop. The only reason that I knew I needed to put it down last night is because I knew my daughter was going to wake up really early, and sure enough she did. So we woke up at 5:20 this morning. I'm going to sit down with my coffee and see if I can do a little bit of reading this morning. I just got to chapter 6 and there's a warning before you start the chapter and my stomach dropped. So yeah. So we haven't talked much about what exactly has been happening so far. I am, 17% of the way into Manacled. And I don't want to stop reading. Like, I don't want to put it down. I don't want to stop reading. I'm just like, kind of just going with it at this point. Like, there's been some really heavy stuff happen and I knew that's how this was going to go, but I also just, it hurts, you know, being a Harry Potter lover. Hearing about some of the things that have happened with certain characters really hurts. I feel like I am reading Harry Potter if it was written for adults. A little bit of an alternate timeline also because there are some things that are different here, but it's really good. Really good. Really, I'm kind of just enthralled in this at this point. And the world, because it is just Harry Potter's world, I have had no problem becoming interested in this and getting into it, and I don't feel at all that feeling that you feel sometimes where you're like, I just don't feel like picking this up right now. I don't feel that. Every opportunity that I have to be reading this, I'm trying to take. So I want to talk a little bit about Manacled so far. I'm still only 22% of the way through the book. There have been so many things that have happened, but yet we have barely scratched the surface of this story. And I want to throw out there, if I have not already said this, even though I think I have, look at the trigger warnings. I looked at the trigger warnings and still was not prepared for some of the stuff that I have read, or just wasn't aware how it was going to make me feel. Like today I was reading while I was eating lunch, and while I was mid chewing, I read a certain part and it almost made me sick. I had to stop and like stare off into space and just kind of recollect myself before moving on in the book, because it's a lot, it's heavy, it's gruesome, it's detailed, and even the parts that aren't detailed or the parts that you don't like witness happening in the book, like if they're just telling you something happened, it's so detailed, it's heavy and like nauseating. So, but somehow I'm still enjoying it. What does that say? Okay, now I'm in chapter 23, and all of the the conflicting thoughts that she is having are the same conflicting thoughts that I am having as the reader, and I'm sure that is what is intended. But then he says something, I'm not gonna say it because it's definitely a spoiler, but he says something and I'm just like, when I started this book, I was like, how are we gonna come back from this? How are we going to change our thinking about Draco? We're reaching that point. I was going to take a break after that chapter. Now I don't want to. I don't want to stop reading. Oh my gosh, I don't want to stop reading. Let me read you this line, okay? Malfoy wasn't kind. He simply wasn't cruel. He wasn't as awful as he could be. He possessed the meagerest shreds of decency, apparently in her fractured mind. An absence of cruelty was sufficient solace. For her starved heart, it was enough. What a line. What a line. Stop. And then he said it again. He said it again. Okay, chapter 25. I just finished chapter 25. What the heck just happened? What just happened? And now we're getting a flashback? What is this hair doing? What? What? So I was just trying to look at what our chapters look like the chapter layout. And so the chapters we were following, I'll go in sequential order, but then we hit these flashbacks and we have like 30 something flashbacks that happen, and then it picks back up in chapter 60 something. So I'm correct. Am I correct in saying that this is like 3 books, or it's like 3 sections that this was done? I feel like that's what I heard and that's what I read or something, but I guess that means we are now in like the second portion, and we are now getting some past details that seem very important to the story. Had not necessarily a who did this to you, but like a what did he do to you moment, and I'm living for it. The banter is bantering, and yeah, these flashbacks they're good. I'm in flashback 12, so I don't know if we're supposed to know yet. And I'm sorry, but the whole I'm not going to drink around you, blushing and like kicking my feet over here. Okay, it's hours later. I'm reading before bed. I have my retainer in. The fan is on. So I'm sorry for all the noise. But the banter is bantering, okay? I am now in flashback 15. I'm sorry. What? The part I'm reading right now is Christmas. And she just gave Arthur his Christmas present. I'm fighting back tears. Okay, so I just reached flashback number 27, and we're at this part where I'm like really anxious and scared of what's about to happen, because we already have a bad feeling about what's going to happen, and because of the first portion of the book, before we started getting all these flashbacks, we know the situations that were happening at that point. It's giving me bad feelings. So I'm anxious and I'm scared. And I don't want to stop reading, but I also don't want to read because I'm so scared. So I am, like I said, on flashback 27, and that puts me at 57% of the way into the book. I just got a notification that my battery is low. So what I might do is let it charge for a little bit and then pick it back up here in a little while. I'm making some lunch for my daughter. And yeah, this might be the break point that I need, so that way I can pick this back up. I actually haven't charged my Kindle yet. We're outside and we're doing some coloring. It is really, really nice weather. And I think I'm gonna do a little bit of reading while we're out here too. I think I just saw a mosquito. That is a mosquito. If we don't get eaten up by mosquitoes first. Oh my gosh. This picture? Are you kidding me? Stop it. Oh my gosh. What? I feel like I've been reading all day. Like I've read so much today in my mind, but I haven't even read 10% of this book today. Like I started out on like 49% this morning and I'm currently on 58%. Granted, I might reach more than that tonight before I go to bed because it's only like 8:15. But yeah. And so much is happening. Like that last part that I read in that last clip. I know we're in the aftermath of that. You guys. I kind of keep forgetting about the first portion of the book, and I'm getting so sucked into these flashbacks that I keep forgetting where we're at currently in like current timeline and current events. And I'm like, how did we get here? How did we get here? I'm scared. This line literally says, Hermione blushed. Yeah, same girl, same. Oh my god. This picture. Okay, so I feel like I haven't had the opportunity to give like a full like little chat about this in a while. I'm really enjoying this middle section, and I don't know if that's like the romantic in me that is enjoying it or what, but I'm also dreading the fact that I'm almost done with this middle section, because then we're going to be coming back to the like present timeline, and it's going to be rough, I have a feeling. And I already am so emotionally just wrapped up in these characters and in this story. I have a hard time remembering that this isn't canon, like that this is not how the story actually is going. So good. It's so good. I'm still scared. I'm still so scared to keep reading, and I'm going to, of course, but I'm just like, this book is going to put me in pain, and I'm gonna do it anyways. I think that's kind of the feeling of this book, is knowing it's going to hurt and doing it anyways. And I know I said it early on in this video, but this is fan fiction. This is not Harry Potter canon. Like, this is somebody's brainchild that they made using the Harry Potter world and the Harry Potter characters. This is something that you need to really look into as far as the triggers and trigger warnings and content warnings go, because it's dark. It's dark, and not even in like to an extent it is dark in the content, but just also it makes you feel heavy. Like, I feel heavy after some of these things that we've been reading. And I think that's also part of the reason that I think it's going to be hard going back into the present timeline in part 3 of the book, because, or I'm assuming it's going back into the present timeline. I don't know yet, but if that is what happens, I think that's going to be really difficult. I think I'm going to end up having to do a spoiler section at the end of this video. I think I'm going to end up doing that because I need to talk about some I need to talk about some quotes that I have highlighted. Because I have highlighted so much in this section, things that have just had me feeling certain ways, but also all of the connections. So well written. Gosh. As a Harry Potter fan, this makes me wish that this could have been published in the Harry Potter world as a book, because wow, it's amazing. I wish that J.K. Rowling could have gotten in with SenLinYu, is that how she pronounces it? I wish they could have gotten in on this together and made this, I don't know, an alternate ending book, something. I know Harry Potter is young adult and that this is obviously not young adult, but it's phenomenal. Good morning, everybody. Yesterday and last night I was able to read up to flashback number 36, so I think I have 36 and 37 to read today, at least, you know, just to get us into the third portion of the book. But yesterday it was announced that Alchemized, that the movie rights for Alchemized sold for $3 million, which is the most that any new release book has ever sold for their movie rights, which is crazy. So I'm very excited about that. I know Alchemized is going to have different characters. It's not going to be Harry Potter. Some of the stuff is going to be a little bit different, but I'm still really excited. At least I will get to see the main plot, I'm hoping, played out on the screen. That's going to be crazy. I'm very excited. And I'm gonna make myself some coffee and some breakfast, sit down, try to read a little bit this morning, and yeah, jump back into this. I'm loving it so far. This entire book, Harry has been ticking me off, and now he's gonna make me cry. It's been a couple days since I last recorded, because I haven't been reading a whole lot because I've kind of just been dreading getting to this last chapter in this middle section. But guys, I can't. Antipodian opali? I had to Google it. If you don't know what that is, don't Google it until you read this, but I had to Google it and now I want to cry. He looked gutted. Yeah, same. I feel that. No. No, no, no. So I have the fan running behind me. I'm sorry if that causes the sound to not be that great. I also have my retainer in because I'm getting ready for bed. So I also have a little bit of a lisp. But I am currently in chapter 72 and there are only 74 chapters. But there are 3 different epilogues at the end from what I'm seeing. So I should be finishing this more than likely either tonight or tomorrow. And I don't know how to feel about that because right now we're at this really big turning point for the story where things can either go one way or another. Like, we don't know what's gonna happen, and I'm scared and I'm anxious and I'm gonna honestly be sad when this is over. At the time that I'm recording this, Alchemized has still not come out. Me and my friends have been talking about it a little bit because they have not yet read Manacled, but we're all planning on buying Alchemized when it comes out, and we're kind of curious how much of the story is going to change once she puts it into the published book. Is it just going to be the Harry Potter stuff that's been changed, or is there going to be some other stuff that she changes as well? And we don't know that yet. At this point, I think it comes out a week from today at the time that I'm reading this. So I should be finishing this just a few days before Alchemized actually comes out, which is crazy. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading. My Kindle says I have 3 hours and 30 minutes left in the book. I'm gonna give or take a little bit of that. I'm right at 90%. We will see if I finish it tonight or tomorrow. It's just before 8 p.m. right now, so I guess it just depends on how late I want to stay up. I forgot that's what was gonna happen. I forgot that's what we were doing. For some reason, I forgot that's what we were doing. awful. Okay, everybody. I finished reading about 10 minutes ago, and I feel like I need to talk about this book, or this fan fiction, this story, immediately after reading it. I'm just still really emotional over the ending and over everything that happened. I don't think I can give it anything less than 5 stars. It was actually amazing. I have never really read books or fan fictions or anything like that that have had so much dark stuff that was happening, especially in the first third of the book, like the first portion of the story. A lot of that was really hard to read about. So I think that if you are someone who has certain triggers that you try to avoid when reading books, or you do not want to read about assaults or about, just look at the trigger warnings and take them fully at face value and imagine them being really bad, because they were hard to read. The only other book I've ever read like that where some of this stuff was happening was when I read A Little Life, and I hated that book. I hated that book so much because it was just tragic and there was no redemptive moment in this story. And I do think there were a lot of redemptive moments in this story for so many characters. Also, by the way, let me say I'm sitting really stiff because I hurt my back this morning and I'm just having a hard time getting comfortable. So if you see me wincing or sitting weird, moving weird, that's why. But I'm going to give it 5 stars. I can't believe I've had this on my Kindle for almost 2 years and never read it. I can't believe how long it took me to get around to reading this. I also just can't believe the ending. I cannot believe the ending. And I think too, as a mother to a daughter, reading a story like this and ending the way it does, and also hearing the author recently talk about how she wrote this when she was postpartum and how she was dealing with a lot of the struggles of motherhood and losing certain parts of yourself and accepting other parts of yourself. I think that it just really hits home in certain aspects. And I like, even now, like I feel like I'm talking like I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm also just so connected to this book. I said it earlier on, but I just can't believe that this isn't how the story went. Even though these are amazing young adult books, it's almost like if this would have been actually happening in the real world, in real life, it probably would have been closer to this because of how much war and destruction and darkness we get in this. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I highlighted in this story. This is going to be the portion where there are going to be some spoilers, so if you do not want to see spoilers, click out now. I'll try to be as vague as I can on some parts, but some of this I just really want to talk about in detail. I'm not going to talk about everything I highlighted because I did highlight a lot, but a lot of my highlights were in the second and third portions of the story. I think I only had one highlight from the first part because, again, that part was just really hard to read. So if you don't want spoilers, if you don't want to hear me talk about specific quotes or anything like that, go ahead and end the video now. So the first highlight that I made that I want to talk about was in flashback 8, and it said, whatever it was that he thought he could get by aiding the order, he clearly wanted it more than anything. That, knowing that this is a Dramione fanfiction, I was like, oh. And I have a hard time remembering where exactly he was at in his feelings at this point, but if he was starting to realize his feelings that he was starting to have towards Hermione at this point, and she is what he was wanting, and then knowing the rest of the story and like how she and later their daughter is all he cares about, yeah, that part was great foreshadowing. And on that same note, in flashback 17, I highlighted a part where it said, she suspected he burned for things more deeply than even he was aware of. Again, he cared so much about her and about his family and about protecting those that he loved. And again, in flashback 18, unhesitating, cunning, unfailing, ruthless, and unyielding, driven to succeed. But what he was driven to succeed in was unstated, left to his discretion. He wanted her. So all of those runes are why he felt so passionately about her, because he wanted to be. And so he chose those runes so that he could use them the way he wanted to treat her and love her and take care of her the way that he wanted to, and to protect her. Also, the part here from flashback 22, where I think it's when she was talking to Severus and was explaining to him how she used the heart of Aziz or Isis, however it was pronounced, how she used that.
I love you.
I love you. I love you so much. But she says, I saved his soul. And again, knowing how much darkness he used to protect her and to save her, and then she just did everything she could to save him and who he really is and the soul behind all of his actions. And again, just more examples of how he was treating her out of his love and how he felt about her. From flashback 29, there's the quote that says, "You're mine, you swore yourself to me," he said in her ear as he slipped. Oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about that. He says, "You're mine, you swore yourself to me." And then he said, "Now and after the war, you promised it, and I'm going to take care of you. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. You don't have to be lonely because you're mine." And then also when she was explaining to him in the same chapter about the heart of Aziz, how it makes him immune to the corrosion and the tainting of the dark magic, and how he's just always going through a purification ritual. I thought that was, I was a little bit mind blown, because I was like, whoa, that is his redemption. Like, that is his moment where we're like, his soul is pure. His soul is safe. Then because of that, we can trust his actions that he makes that don't always line up with that. I'm realizing as I'm going through a lot of these quotes, it's just so much of showing his dedication and his love for her. His, like he's unwavering in that in so many places. I mean, when he threatened to raise the entire order whenever he would get angry with her if she was willing to, sacrifice herself. And he's like, "No, you are mine." There's a highlight. Let's see, where is this one from? God, I have so many highlights from this section. From flashback 31, where he talks about how he's going to take care of her and how he's always going to take care of her. And also how he would get her out, give the word, and he would get her out of the order, he would get her out of the war. But also he just didn't care if anyone else survived the war except for her. Everyone could die and he would not care. And I understand that was kind of something that Jenny did not like in the end, is that he only cared about Hermione, and he also only cared about Aurora. I'm pretty sure it was Aurora is how it's pronounced. But I also think in a way that's beautiful in a sense. Maybe, because I think the thing is too, is we can't expect everything about him to be different and everything about him to change. And he was never a character in the Harry Potter books or in this that cared about anyone other than the people he loved. And I think that is just very, very evident here, is as long as they were okay, whether that meant him sacrificing himself or sacrificing someone else, as long as Hermione was okay, as long as her baby was okay, that's all he cared about. And in that too, from flashback 33, I have a highlight where it says, "She didn't love him because she wanted to change him into something easier." She took all of these difficult, hard, dark parts of him, and she wasn't trying to change that. she was just accepting who he was and setting her boundaries and saying, this is my boundary, meet me at it. And he would, because he loved her. And he told her, like, you are my terms of service. The contract is void if you die. She is all that he wants. I also have a highlight here from flashback 36, specifically just talking about Neville killing Nagini. And my little note that I put here was, I will always love Neville. I love Neville's character. I have loved his character here in the Harry Potter books, and I've loved it, the little bits we get in here. I think, you know, he, while being a little more timid than a lot of other Gryffindors, he still has such a brave heart. And in this moment specifically, in both of these stories, we get to see that, and I love him. It's one reason why when we find out everything that happens to the Order members, and I think it's like the first portion, but also in the flashbacks, and I think they mention a little bit more of it in the third part, so it's kind of sprinkled throughout. It really made me sad to read about the Order members. And on that too, reading the parts about the Weasleys, that made me really, really sad, specifically because I would be thinking about Molly, and in, is it Order of the Phoenix maybe? One of the later books in the Harry Potter series, Molly has to try to put a boggart back into a trunk, and we find out that her boggart, her biggest fear, is watching the people that she cares about suffer and die in the war and at the hand of and in the hands of Voldemort. And that literally happens here, and she has to watch it and witness it. And she doesn't even have the support of her spouse because of the state that Arthur is in. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. I was crying or on the verge of tears almost every time the Weasleys and what happened to them was mentioned. And I did catch the little part from flashback 37 whenever he made the unbreakable vow with Snape about Snape not taking Hermione anywhere. I caught that and was like, that's why Snape did not want to take Hermione at that point in the first portion of the book. Because I did kind of wonder, like, is Snape not as trustworthy as we thought he was whenever we were first reading that first portion? Like, why would he not take this opportunity to try to help her? But this explains that, that unbreakable vow that he would not take her anywhere. And also, and I say this with a bit of sarcasm as someone who has dealt with a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, in flashback 38, after she blows up Sussex, and it says she sank to the ground. She was so cold and everything hurt. She pressed her hand against her chest and tried to breathe. This is when she's thinking about everyone who has died. And my note was, girl, this is a really bad time for a panic attack. I know you don't always get to pick when a panic attack happens. I know that, but it was just, my first thought was like, can we please not do this right now? Can we have our panic attack once we're safe? Because girl, this was bad time for that. And when she stood up and she fought Montague after that, I also made a note that said, Alexa, play Breaking Dishes by Rihanna. Because all I could think of was, it says he cast his shield, but the magical blade sliced through it and sank into the hilt of his left shoulder. She barely missed his heart. And this is Hermione pulled out her second knife. His expression grew terrified. But when I was just like, that rage as she's fighting and she is trying to survive and make it back to the person she loves, I was just like, Alexa, play Breaking Dishes by Rihanna. Like, girl. And also the part where it talks about her casting her Patronus in that scene as well, and it ends up being an Antipodean opal eye. I had to Google that because I wasn't sure exactly what that was, and I Googled it and it said it was in the Harry Potter world a type of dragon, and it had pictures. I was like, dragon, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but Draco means dragon. So I assume if Draco could ever cast a Patronus, I don't think he has. I don't think it's ever mentioned in the Harry Potter books, or I don't think it was ever mentioned in here, but if Draco was to ever mention, or was ever to be able to have a Patronus, it would probably be a dragon. Like, that would make sense. But even if he couldn't, her Patronus changing to be a dragon because of how much she loved him, just like they do in the Harry Potter books. They talk about people's Patronuses changing. I put a little crying face. I was like, oh my gosh, she loves him so much. And also in the same chapter, when she was talking about the killing curse being casted to kill Remus, the fact that she had to throw that little line in there that said, the last of the Marauders, yeah, that one hurt. That one really hurt my heart. But yeah, reading that the last one died, it almost is like the death of hope for Hermione and for all these other resistance characters who are fighting against Voldemort. Okay, and then now in the third portion of the book, in chapter 66, when she is telling Draco that she wants to have their baby and she wants to tell their baby all about him because she's never gotten to tell anyone about him, I was in tears. That hurt my heart. And she just wants to be able to share her love for him with someone and love him freely and openly, and it hurt my heart to read that. And she said people should know what you're like. She wants their daughter to know not what he made people think of him and the person that he played to be in the war, but who he truly was and how he truly loved her and how he cared for the people he loved. She wants people to know that. And saying that and then thinking about the ending and thinking about how everyone was really thinking of him during the time of war, that sucks. And it makes me glad that their daughter did get that, that story from him, that she was able to hear what actually was going on and know that her father is not as awful as the war made him out to be. But wow, yeah, that's still sad. And I didn't really highlight a lot from the part when Lucius was kind of torturing Hermione and going through her memories and all that, but I did highlight the quote here where he's talking about how Draco should have told him what had happened to Narcissa, and he said, "You should have told me, she was mine." And it says Draco stared coldly at his father and said, "Yes, she was. And you saw to it that everyone knew it, didn't you? Even the Dark Lord. You never let her go. Not when she begged to run after my 4th year. You loved her right into the grave." And that is exactly what Draco was trying to not do to Hermione. Like, he was trying to give her the opportunity to escape. That part just really made me think of the way that we as people will watch our parents or watch other people in our lives in relationships, and we will say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to treat the people we love that way. We're not going to react the way that they did, and we make changes, and how it's kind of like up to us to be the change that we want to see. How if we want our children to grow up differently than us and to not have to deal with the same issues as us, where in this case we're talking about war, and like how his mother felt so trapped in a sense by his father's love, and then to see him make the changes he needed to make to then give his daughter and the woman he loved the freedom that they desired. Like, that was just, yeah, I loved that. I had a thought in chapter 74 that I'm so glad did not happen the way that I thought it was going to. In chapter 74, Ginny says to Hermione that Malfoy will go back eventually because he made an unbreakable vow to defeat Voldemort, right? I thought that he had made an unbreakable vow with Moody somehow. In that time that Moody said he needed to talk to Draco after Hermione and Draco made their unbreakable vow, I thought somehow maybe someone else showed up and they made an unbreakable vow or something, and that he swore he would be the person to kill him if like Harry Potter failed or something. If that would have happened, I was gonna be so mad. So incredibly mad. Because after everything that this man has been through, in every single way, if he would have had to then give up what he had finally found to live life in a peaceful manner, to go back and do that, I would have been so mad. Thankfully, that's not what happened. But yeah, I did love Jenny being the one to finally kill Voldemort. I did love that. I think it was a very poetic justice, you know, in the sense that love has always kind of won. Like, they were talking about how light versus dark magic, and how Harry's mom's love is what defeated Voldemort the first time. Jenny's love and how much she loved Harry is what she was thinking about in those moments that she finally killed Voldemort. There were also a couple more quotes from that same chapter that I really liked, and I think that they speak to mothers as well as just people in relationships. Draco said to Hermione at one point, you know, it's not your job to keep breaking yourself to pieces to save everyone. I think as mothers, we have a tendency to put ourselves on the back burner and put our families, and I'm sure fathers also experience this as well, like he did in this book. But as a mother, speaking from my experience, that happens a lot. And, you know, he told her that there's hardly anything left of you. You cannot let yourself wither just to raise your kids up or raise your family up. And that was a very important quote, because then she later said to him that I'm sure there's going to be good days and bad days for us. There's probably too much for us to ever put it all behind us. But if you choose to stay with me and I choose to stay with you every day, I think we're strong enough to make it one day at a time. I think that that is a beautiful example and a beautiful wording of choosing somebody, loving somebody, not because they're easy, not because they're perfect, but loving somebody and choosing to be with them when things get hard, even when things get rough, even when it's not easy. And then I did also save and highlight some pictures. So let me show you what some of my favorite pictures were. So the quote right before this picture was, "You're better than anyone," he said quietly, the words brushing against her skin. "This world doesn't deserve you at all." And this picture here of him holding her, sorry, I have it highlighted so the coloring is a little off. Like, that is amazing. I'm obsessed with these pictures, and I will say too, I'm so glad that with Alchemized, she is using the same person to do the art for Alchemized, and I think that it's really amazing that she is giving that person a lot of credit and making sure that the artist gets a lot of recognition. So that picture was from Epilogue 1. This picture is from Epilogue 2, and I just think it's adorable. This is the picture of him with little Aurora on his shoulders. I don't know, something about, you know, the love that makes a man soft. It's beautiful. And then one of the last things that I highlighted was the quote that Hermione said to Aurora when she said, "I don't remember exactly how my wish went, but I think I wished for you. I think I wished for a place to be with the people I loved where I wouldn't be lonely anymore. There was a while when I was really lonely, and now I always have you and your father, so I got my wish." Saying that makes me want to cry. And then the very last thing, sorry, I'm teary now. The very last thing that I highlighted, or I'm sorry, I didn't highlight it, but I'm going to highlight it. I was just too emotional at the time to do so, is that last paragraph where it is talking about the picture of Harry and Ron and Hermione that Aurora finds in the book. And I'm just going to read the last paragraph for all of us, because if you have watched all these spoilers at this point, you've probably already read this. Or if you don't want to hear me read the final paragraph that had me sobbing my eyeballs out, cut out here. Again, it's talking about the picture. This is the caption for the photo. The Hogwarts Trio, Christmas 2002. Harry Potter with friends Ron Weasley, C. Weasley, Ron, Chapter 7, and Muggle-born witch Hermione Granger. Granger left England at the start of the Second Wizarding War to study healing abroad. She survived the war, but died during imprisonment while a surrogate in the repopulation program. She was a non-active member of the Order of the Phoenix and did not fight. And then, of course, we have that picture. Everything that she went through to then be remembered as a non-active member in the Order of the Phoenix when the war, when Voldemort, none of it would have ended the way it did if it wasn't for her. She blew up Sussex single-handedly. She destroyed the wards of Hogwarts. She created new types of magic to do this. She sold herself and sacrificed herself and did so much to then be known throughout history as a non-active member of the Order of the Phoenix who did not fight. That is so sad. But also, she's aware of this. That's the part I have to keep kind of reminding myself. She's aware that this is how she's going to be remembered. She doesn't want the legacy. She just wants to be happy with the people that she loves. Okay, that's all I really have to say. I loved this so much. I'm so glad I read it. I'm finishing this on the Thursday before Alchemized comes out. So Alchemized I will be picking up next week when it comes out. I'm so excited to get that book. I want to own a bound copy of Manacled at some point. I know that a lot of people have said it's not right to buy it. I didn't know that for a long time. I didn't know a lot of the rules and stuff around fanfiction because I've never grown up reading fanfiction, but I am going to start looking into the binding materials. I told myself for a while that it's not something I was interested in doing because I didn't think I could do it properly and I didn't know if I wanted to dedicate the time to it, but with how much I loved this, I could see myself at some point binding a copy or binding it into the 3 separate sections even. I think that would be a great way to do it. I think I've seen where people have done it that way. We will see. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's a little bit long, but if you have not read Manacled and if you are okay with all of the trigger warnings and the dark stuff that happens in this, not okay with it, but okay reading it, I highly recommend. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.